And now we get into what is, I guess conceptually my favourite chapter of the game, because we're heading to King Arthur's tomb. Or should I say a little bit more accurately, King Arthur's tomb? It's the question mark you need to raise slightly at the end. But it's in Cornwall, apparently.
There seems to be a fine line between coincidence and irony.
Yes, quite. Very, very fine line.
Sure about that map?
Unfortunately, there was some nonsense about the discovery of the real King Arthur's tomb here years ago, soon discredited. And yet another roadside attraction was born.
Oh, they always
Well,
are.
let's see what we can see, shall we? At least it should be educational.
Now, before we can actually properly get into the exhibition proper, I've got to open the door.
Either housekeeping should be fired, or no one's been inside for months.
I would suspect no one's been inside for months. Now, our wonderful first artifact is hidden up above the gift shop. One thing you're going to notice is that a lot of the things in this exhibition are prefaced with ye olde
This place is
blah.
days.
It's been condemned since the death of the owner, one Professor Worth. I shudder to think that at one time he had students.
Indeed. But, just because people are studying Arthur does not mean that it's completely, wrong. Because there is a chance, very slight, but still a chance, that he could have,
And we have power.
existed in some form. Basically, the period in which Arthur kind of tends to inhabit is kind of like the late 5th and early 6th centuries, so yeah. And here is where there are inaccuracies in the main Arthur story. What they're going off here is, I believe, the story of the Sword and the Stone, which doesn't really have much. Well, obviously it has a lot of relation to the Arthur legend. Also, the Once and Future King is a popular one.
There's
But,
no difference between
yeah.
stupid and charming with you, is there?
Now, I really, really, really like Arthurian myth and legend. It's just so much fun, especially when you get to look at the literature. Because, so you have the History of the Kings of Britain, written by Geoffrey of Monmouth, at around approximately 1136, which is kind of the one that cemented Arthur in the minds of Britain as a real historical person for many hundreds of years. And in that, Arthur is the son of Uther. Merlin helped Uther and gave a prophecy to King Vortigern about what would happen, and it involved dragons and all sorts, and Merlin actually has no interaction with Arthur. Please don't use verily. Not like that, especially. Oh, good grief, all the historical inaccuracies. Well, literary inaccuracies, I suppose, are a bit more accurate. I basically put all of my Arthurian stuff to Geoffrey of Monmouth. It's most accurate as to the roots.
How did they know he found it if he didn't return? Exactly.
Yes, very much so. And this is why it's the Tales of the Knights that is most interesting. Because in the original story, the likes of Gawain... Well, Gawain is, but Lancelot doesn't exist in the first Arthur myths. Well, in the initial thing of Arthur. It's only later on that he appears. And then he kind of is added to it and becomes part of it. And it's the same with Gawain, Galahad, Tristan, so on and so forth. They get taken on and expanded.
Now, Zip, that was too easy.
Yes, quite. Now, I believe that the, I can't remember which particular sword the Sword in the Stone was. I'm just triple-checking that now. Now, Nimue is the Lady of the Lake, who is important. But you also have Morgan / Morgana, depends which one you go with.
It was his own fault, really.
Never trust a woman?
Don't believe in magic.
Well, you never know. A little bit of magic goes a long way. And that is kind of where the whole sword and scabbard thing comes from, but once again, it's not quite accurate to the original stories.
There's a logical explanation for that. It's called evening.
You're so literal, Alistair. Archaeology is half metaphor, you know.
I have to say, I do love Alistair's moaning throughout this chapter. It's just hilarious. So, basically, Lancelot was kind of a French creation, and was most popular with the French. And Gawain was more popular with England, so a lot of English romance literature is with Gawain, more so than Lancelot. One of the great writers of Arthurian stuff was Chrétien de Troyes, who wrote Ivan, The Knight of the Lion, Eric and Enid, Clige, and Lancelot, The Knight of the Cart. You also have Marie de France, who Arthur and his retinue appear in some of her lays.
This is where the truth behind the myth is supposed to be
And
explained.
there are loads
Being turned
more,
into a warehouse.
but you also have Le Mort d'Arthur, which is Thomas Mallory's retelling of the entire legend, focusing particularly
Give
on his
Professor Worth
death.
some credit. If he had to close an exhibit for renovations, at least he picked the most boring one.
It's very true. This is also one of the more irritating rooms to progress through, largely because to get to the next artifact, we need to lift a box up using the forklift. You can kind of build like a stair, but the main problem is driving this thing, because it's just a pain in the backside. Like, I seriously don't get how this thing drives. You kind of end up having to just figure it out for yourself, but it's so easy to get stuck here with these. I mean, literally what the game wants you to do is just ram down the stairs, but we want the artifact. But basically, the way that you need to move to get things going anywhere is to have the forklift completely lowered, drive it under a box, lift that box up, and then reverse. But it's so slow, I hate this forklift truck. And we don't get rid of it for a little while. There we go, I think we've just about sorted our initial plan. Now you're going to want to do this if you want the artifact, because it is your only chance at getting it. I believe it may be possible to jump off the forklift truck itself, but this is a safer option to be able to get into this little nook and cranny.
Professor's office space.
Done up as spottily as his reputation.
Said the pot to the kettle. Professor Worth says here that the tomb of King Arthur, the one his museum's built over, is a fake.
And that's the case for a lot of Arthurian
Professor Worth believes
tombs, really.
by Arthur's contemporaries to lure thieves from the gravesite of the actual King Arthur.
Who doesn't exist?
That's where you and the professor differ.
So, obviously there's the story that Arthur dies. Well, Arthur is stabbed by Mordred and then is taken across the sea. Well, taken over to Avalon. But basically what happened was that a lot, and I do mean a lot, of tombs, in inverted commas, were found of Arthur and Guinevere and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of people were just like, yes, we've found the body of King Arthur. Even though Arthur may not have been a real person, people were just like, we found it, we found it.
This definitely isn't Arthur's tomb. I've seen enough tombs in my life to know when I'm looking at a cenotaph.
Oh,
A
interesting.
diversion. This place is trying too hard. It's hiding something.
A body?
No, that's the problem.
So yes, as I was saying, so Arthur goes to Avalon, and lots of people, and I do mean lots, throughout history have kind of found things that suggest that they are Avalon. I think one of the sites for Arthur's grave is Glastonbury, because it was surrounded by a marsh, I believe. And I believe that its name sort of, somewhere along the lines, relates to its Avalon, which Avalon is sometimes called, and yeah, that it means like Island of Apples, which then oh yes, there's this now. Fun. I hate this staircase.
Are you alright?
I decided
So,
to take the slow way down.
People thought it was there. Also, there is a website that exists, the isleofavalon.co.uk, that says King Arthur and Guinevere were buried here. There's a lot of debate as to whether that is definitely the case.
Be careful.
And I do mean a lot. Because obviously Arthur
This will take some
maybe,
concentration.
probably didn't exist. We don't know.
I won't let you sit up front with me anymore.
Now, the thing with this staircase that you're going to be so careful with is that if you drop down, you are dead. If you want the artifact here, you've got to make sure that you don't die on the rest of your descent. Because if you die, you are never going you lose your chance to get that artifact. Which is why it is recommended that you save manually. Not quite when I saved, probably should have done it when I was at the top of the stairs. But, oh well, I'm not going to die. Run, Lara! I hate this staircase just because it is so dangerous. And because of that artifact being there, it's just like, oh... Thankfully, the main problem that you're going to have is that rope, and ropes being a pain in the backside. But I believe that brings us safely down to the bottom, so let's do some more exploring of Arthur's actual tomb. Yay!
So am I.